Ma, a horror story about a black woman who lusted after a white man and then went on a killing spree. Okay, let me give you a quick summary of the story. Ma's a horror film starring Octavia Spence as Sue Ann, aka Ma, who was a crazy, middle-aged, deranged woman who befriended kids after buying them beer. Now, one of the main characters in this story was Maggie. Maggie and her mother, Erica, who was divorced, returned to their hometown, and Erica's mother worked as a cocktail waitress. She runs into her old classmate, Mercedes, and Ben, and was embarrassed by Mercedes for being a cocktail waitress. Erica also befriends a bartender by the name of Stu. Now, Maggie starts her first day of school, and the first person she runs into is a girl named Jeannie, a black girl who's in a wheelchair. Now, she has trouble getting up a little ramp, and Maggie helps her up the ramp, and then the scene ends with Jeannie disappearing into the hallway. Now, one of the first students that Maggie befriends is Haley, the typical blonde, popular girl at the school. Maggie also meets some of Haley's friends. Andy, one of the popular kids, he's a shy, passive-aggressive guy. Chaz, the jock of the group. And Ashley, a girl who is the daughter of strict parents, and the token brother, Daryl, who says corny stuff. Now, Ma worked at a vet hospital for a Dr. Brooks who treated her bad. The kids she befriends and buys alcohol for just happen to be the kids of the schoolmates that humiliated Ma when she was in high school. Ma would buy the kids alcohol and invite them to use her basement to drink and smoke weed. Ma also stole jewelry from the kids and wore them. Erica, Maggie's mother, finds out and forbid her to go back to Ma's house. She also confronted Ma in a grocery store. Now, Maggie finds out Ma's true motives when she sneaks into her house to look for her missing jewelry and comes across a room with Ma's high school photos of classmates who happen to be her mother and her friends' parents, Mercedes and Ben. She also discovered that Jeannie, the wheelchair girl, was Ma's daughter and she could walk. Ironically, Jeannie was the first person she met in the movie. Now, Ben comes into Ma's workplace, the veterinarian's office, and makes a date with her. After meeting with Ma in a bar, he lets her know there are trackers on his trucks and confronts Ma about having his son, who happens to be Chaz, at her house. Ben warns Ma to stay away and then leaves. Now, Ma goes on a killing spree, starting with Mercedes, Ben's girlfriend, by bulldozing her Mercedes with her truck. Ma killed her boss, Dr. Brooks, kidnapped Ben, drugged and tied up Haley, Andy, Chaz, Daryl, and Ashley while they were in her basement. Ma drugged Ben, tied him up to a bed, cut his wrist, and left him there to bleed out. Ma was exacting her revenge because she was tricked into giving oral sex to a boy in a closet back in high school who she believed was Ben. Now, Ma sent a video message to Maggie showing her that Andy was in her basement, and Maggie took her mother's car and headed to Ma's house. Ma hid behind a door, drugged Maggie, took her to the basement with her friends, and tried to hang Maggie from the stairs. Now, when Erica, Maggie's mother, wakes up in the morning and realizes her car and Maggie were gone, she called on her friend Stu, the bartender, to take her to Ma's house. Now, as Ma was torturing Maggie and her friends, Jeannie, Ma's daughter, came out and shoved her down the stairs. Now, a fire started by a lamp that fell over as Jeannie freed Maggie and her friends. Erica finally shows up and releases all the kids from the basement, including Jeannie. Ma calls out to Jeannie, but she flees with everyone else. Now, Ma oddly stares out the window and decides to go upstairs as the house was burning. Ma then gets into the bed with Ben, who died from bleeding out, and perishes in the fire with him. The end. What the hell? Okay, like I said in the summary, Ma exacted her revenge. Now, she was one black girl in a school full of white people. They didn't give us a backstory on where Ma came from. They didn't mention anything about her parents, so they left that part of the story a big blank, which was an issue for me. The other part of this is that it showed that the black girl and black girls are desperate. They can do anything to be with a white boy or a white man. This is what I got from this backstory for Ma. Now, I want to point out where Ma reunited with Ben, and they met in a bar, like I said in the summary, and she thought this was a real date, and he was coming there to warn her to stay away from his son because he had trackers in his work trucks, and he found out his son was spending time with Ma at her house. Now, this one accident sent Ma into a downhill spiral, and she went on a killing spree. And the first person they showed in the movie her killing was Mercedes. Now, Mercedes was one of those classmates who was in on the joke back in high school. And Mercedes was also dating Ben, the man she was lusting after all these years. Now, Mercedes was jogging down a road, and as soon as Ma saw her, she bulldozed her down with her truck and ran over her at the same time. It was crazy to see. She also killed her boss, Dr. Brooks, who also happened to be a white blonde woman. Now, like I told you before about when she had all of the kids in her basement and tied up, I noticed that she went and sewed the mouth shut of Haley, who's another blonde chick. And to me, this kind of represents the hatred that some black women have for white women, especially the quote-unquote supposed top of the shelf white women with blonde hair and who are tall and who are thin and who on the world stage is viewed as what beauty is. I'm not saying that's not what it is, what it means, but that's how the world views beauty. I mean, that's the representative of beauty, a tall, blonde, white woman. And, it is what it is. Now, Ma treated and responded to these women in the most hostile manner, which kind of shows the envy and the hatred that some black women have for white women. And I kind of get it. Now, another aspect to this movie that I want to point out is the way she treated the one brother, because I noticed that she treated Daryl, the one black guy, pretty bad, and she was always hostile towards him in this movie for some reason. But throughout the movie, she showed her lust for the white boys and white men because she treated Chaz and Andy pretty well. She even went on to kiss Andy near the end of the movie, which I thought was gross and strange at the same time. She's a middle-aged woman lusting after a teenager as well. Wow, this is strange. Now, while these kids were in the basement, Ma painted Daryl's face white for some reason, and she said the words, "There's only room for one of us here." So to me, that translates to her saying that she wanted the black man out of the way because he wasn't needed, he was unnecessary, and she painted his face white, and to me that represented the only way he would be relevant is if he were white. That's kind of what I got from this. I don't know if anybody else kind of saw this, but to me, that's what that represented. And she would do anything to get him out of the way so she could be next to the white man herself. I'm just saying that's what I saw when that part of the movie came up. Now for the finale. Now the house is burning and the kids escape. Ma is still in the house and she looks out the window for some reason, and it was kind of creepy. I thought she was going to chase after them with a knife or something, but no, that didn't happen. She decided to stay in the burning house. She went upstairs and got in the bed next to Ben, who was dead because he bled out. So for me, this represented that she would rather die a fiery death and lay in the bed next to a man who didn't like her when they were teens, didn't like her when they were adults. He humiliated her, but yet she would still rather die next to him than to live without him. She would rather burn up in a house and die as a bedwench in the bed next to the white man she lusted after her whole life. Wow. This just speaks volumes to me. It wasn't worth the price of admission. And that's just my opinion. It was poorly written. The ending was dumb. And once again, that's my opinion. I mean, if you want to still go see this movie, go ahead and form your own opinion and see if what I said in this video made any sense to you. Well, once again, this is Eddie Enigma, and Enigma-Fied, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Ma, a middle-aged bedwench lusting after a white man, and this is a horror movie?